So I'd like to welcome to the Wayback Jamboree today a true friend of mine and a lady I have been in touch with over the years through autograph requests. This lady is also the voice behind one of the greatest villains in Disney history, Ursula.
Oh, I laugh when I hear her name.
Yes. From the Disney's Little Mermaid, 1989. Please welcome to the show today Miss Pat Carroll from her home in Cape Cod.
Oh, it's a delight to be talking with you. And Ursula, I tell you, actresses are only as good as the characters they're given to do. And when they gave me the script for Ursula, I knew I was in theatrical heaven.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, what a wonderful character. And you know, female villains are very special.
They are,
and they're different from male villains for the very reason that it's the difference between men and women. But a female who does mean stuff is so interesting because our image of women is that of placidity and charm and loveliness. But boy, when you get a witch like Ursula, you're in business. And it's so seldom that people, either men or women, write female villains, and it's a shame because there are so many things about women that make for good villains.
Exactly, that's for sure.
You know, ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
So if we may go back to Shreveport, Louisiana, at what point did you know in your childhood you wanted to become an actress?
When I was 12 years old, I knew that. And it wasn't in Shreveport because my parents had by then moved to Los Angeles, where we lived the rest of our lives.
Okay.
Or their lives. And I didn't realize I was born in the South until many years later.
Is that right?
Yeah, because when you're a kid, you don't know where you are, south, west, east, north,
exactly.
south, you know. But as you get older, you know that those very words make for a different place where you live.
Yes.
And I've had the wonderful good fortune to be born in a small town in Louisiana, to live in El Paso, Texas for a number of childhood years, and to spend the rest of my life in Los Angeles, and now I live on Cape Cod. Aren't I a fortunate person?
You sure are.
It's the truth, and I've enjoyed every home I've lived in and every territory I've existed in.
Yes. Would you share with us what Los Angeles was like as a child?
Do I remember what it was like?
Yes.
I remember riding around on my tricycle, and my mother was an apartment manager. She was in real estate business, and she managed properties herself. And so I grew up in many different homes.
Oh, yes.
And I enjoyed all of it. It was fascinating. In different areas of Los Angeles, Glendale, Pasadena, and so on and so forth, and other areas of Los Angeles itself. So I had a wonderful time as a kid. California is a great state to live in because the weather is so wonderful. And as a kid, I was always riding my tricycle or on my skates with my friends, going to the library.
Now, if I may ask about Danny Thomas, you got your first big break in television with him.
Yes, and what a good boss he was.
Yes.
Oh, indeed. He was a most pleasant man. He was a most generous man, and a professional to the core, a great example to a young person starting out in this business on every level. I was very fortunate to work for him.
What was one of your favorite Danny Thomas stories, if you have one?
Oh, I don't, at the moment, I don't have any.
No? Okay.
But just being around the man, because he was so sociable, and he was so good with people, either strangers or old friends. He was a great example for a young person.
Yes.
Because he was so good to his friends. And he was always open to new people. And he was an interesting person.
Was he? Yes. I've seen him on TV, and he seems like that.
Oh, and because he's lived his life fully.
Yes.
He hasn't held back with anything, and he's enjoyed all of it, which makes it more important, doesn't it?
It sure does. And he's a comedic genius, just like yourself, too.
Well, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And he worked in a part of the theatrical profession that was new, and he brought new things to it. You know, so it was a great job for me to have because he was a splendid example for a young professional person in our business.
Yes.
On every level. On every level.
Okay.
So that was a marvelous experience for me, and I'm always grateful for it.
Yes, exactly. And then going into the 70s era, you worked on the Match game show quite a bit.
Yes, I did. I did all the game shows, and I loved it.
Yes.
I love game shows.
Yes.
And they're great fun. And if you enjoy doing that, you have a ball.
Exactly. It always seemed that way on the screen anyway.
Yes, well, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Yes. And what are your memories of working with the late, great Gene Raybourne from Match Game?
Oh, he was a darling human being and a thoroughgoing pro. What a lovely human being. And he deserved his success in our profession because he had a theatrical sense about him. And he loved what he was doing. And I think we could tell that watching him at work.
For sure, yes.
And I love professionals who are in this business and enjoy it and are in it because they want it to be.
Yes. And I may ask, who was your favorite comedian to work with?
Oh my God, all of them.
Yes.
Because they were all different. They all had a different attitude about humor and about their business in the humor business.
Yes.
And oh, how wonderful for a young woman performer to be working for those people because I learned so much from each and every one of them.
Okay, yes. And I understand one of your earliest works was with Jimmy Durante.
Jimmy Durante?
Yes.
He was my clown god from the time I was a little girl, and to work for that man was the best experience of my life. He was exactly what you wanted him to be. And I love being out with him socially because we'd walk along the street, say, going out to lunch after a rehearsal, and everybody, of course, would recognize him. He was so good to everyone.
Yes.
To everyone. And I love that because there'd be a president of a bank who stopped him to have a little chin wag, or there'd be a little lady out doing her shopping, and he was great to all of them. And I think that is such a wonderful example for a young professional person to see, because we should be grateful to those people because they are our audiences and they teach us and they give to us and we must be grateful to them.
That's right. I understand that. And I think that's what is missing in today's celebrity-wise is that they're not down to earth anymore like you and Jimmy and all them were back in the day. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm not aware of that because I guess I don't know a lot of them that are stars today.
Yes.
But I think I grew up with such wonderful, thoroughgoing professionals like Jimmy Durante, who'd been in this business all of his life and still had the people around him he started with.
Yes.
And I figured that is some gradation of your character. And that man was so good to everybody, and people would recognize him on the street, from bank presidents to ladies out shopping at the market, and they all had the same love
for him,
for Jimmy Durante because he was full of love.
Exactly. And so, stepping into your voice work, I should say you got your start during a time when new voices were, in my opinion, I think you guys came along at a time when there wasn't the big names doing the voices like there is today.
That's right.
Yeah, how would you put that?
Well, I think it's just the way it goes because the people who could do it and were stars, it wasn't that great a thing to do at that time, but now they realize it's heaven.
Exactly, yes. And there was only a few of you back then that actually did most of the voices, like Mel Blanc and June Foray and yourself.
Oh, yes, and weren't they wonderful?
They sure were, as you are too.
They were examples to young professionals, that's for sure.
Yes. And among the early work that you also have done in voice acting is Grandma Arbuckle. Grandma on Garfield.
Oh, the grandma on Garfield, yeah. I love grandmas.
Yes.
Because I think of my own grandmother, Julia Mayer, or Juju as we called her.
Yes.
And I always used her as an example when I did a character like that.
Okay.
And they were superb because they were total individuals. And they didn't care what the going form was or the going fashion. They were themselves.
Exactly.
And so they were unique. And I used my grandmother for characters many times because she was so fundamental. And I could think of her when I was doing the character, and there it was.
Yes, okay, yes.
You know, so she was a great health thing, and my grandmother, it's either an ass or an elbow. And I use her as an example. Because it seems in those days, older women totally themselves.
Yes, they sure were.
You know, and they didn't care if their grandchildren and strangers and people they knew thought they were different. They were just themselves.
Exactly.
And funny, and they had opinions about everything, and they could go anywhere and meet anybody because they were so open.
For sure. And they didn't care if they told you off. That's just the way they were.
That's right.
Exactly.
And they made no apologies about it.
That's right.
And you either accepted them or you didn't, and they really didn't give a damn.
That's right.
They were totally free people.
Yes.
Oh, my grandmother was something special.
Yes, so was mine.
Even as a kid, I knew she was different.
Yes.
And I just followed her until the day she died.
Yes.
And she taught me so much without meaning to.
Exactly.
You know, she didn't sit down and teach me.
No.
It was just by being herself, I learned constantly.
That's for sure.
And she has been a gift in my entire life, and I'm always grateful to her.
And now the questions that everybody's going to be asking when I air this interview. How did you come along to do Ursula? How did Disney find out about you?
Well, I had worked for Disney in different areas, and when they were working on this character, they called me in to audition for it, and I did and got it because I loved the character.
Exactly.
That was a wonderful character, and you aren't asked to do a character like that very often because the writers aren't writing characters like that.
That's for sure.
So we hit it off immediately, and oh, how I enjoyed doing Ursula. She was very special. You know, as an actor, you rely totally on the writers. And
yes,
the
you sure do.
Of these things.
Yes.
And so it was sure luck on my part to be able to do Ursula, believe me.
And I find a lot of... You are Ursula, as far as I'm concerned. Talking to you today, I can hear you be Ursula.
Good. Well, I like that. I like that indeed, I do.
Yes.
But Ursula was a wonderful character to do, and I was ever grateful for being asked to do her.
Yes. And how was the recording for Little Mermaid put together?
How was it put together?
Was it privately, or was it you seen the other cast members?
What a good question. And no, I didn't work with the other cast members. We just did our roles. And then they put the whole thing together.
Okay.
You know, so we worked alone.
I see. Okay. Another question I have is, in your own opinion, what do you think is responsible for Ursula being so loved by generations of children?
I think because she's a cranky character.
Okay.
And she's not adorable and sweet and wonderful. She's a cranky old poo.
Yes.
And I think kids get that immediately, and they love it, and I think adults too.
Yes.
Because we don't have many of those characters in the theatrical profession today, and they're fun.
Exactly.
And they're funny, and they exist in life.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to.
And I also understand that you also come from a musical background. Was it hard or difficult to record that song that Ursula sang?
Oh, no, not at all. You know, when I began in the theatrical profession, you had to do everything. You had to sing, you had to dance, you had to act, you had to do everything. And you learned, consequently, as you went along from different people. And there's so many gifted people in our profession. If you keep your eyes open and your brain going, you're going to be learning every day from somebody.
Yes.
And I did. And I enjoyed doing it. And I've loved being in this profession, which I wanted to be in since I was 12 years old. And I made it. And I am ever grateful, and I thank the good Lord every day.
I hear you there. It's nothing is available without His love, is there?
No, nothing. Because I think God puts us where we belong.
And I'd love to do another interview sometime if you're up to it.
Of course, anytime.
Okay, well, we'll talk to you again. May God bless you.
All right, I look forward to that.
Okay, God bless you.
Take care.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.